This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay. Okay, I think we're all set. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop for Monday, January 24th, with 2022. This evening is an update on the funding source for the command with vehicle enhancements. I will open up the discussion for the other commissioners and for the sheriff.
So we have a just a quick summary by the sheriff, considering they provided us with some addendums here.
Kevin, would you like to reply with Neil?
Sure. So I guess the addendums that maybe you're talking about, Commissioner Jameson, there was a lot of concern at the last meeting about the fact that we had gotten military surplus stuff, namely the MRAP and this particular vehicle, the command post. What was in the background was the fact that we'd gotten a lot of equipment for other county departments as well through the same program. It's the law enforcement DRO program. In case we have floods. Several years ago, we had a normal New England winter when the maintenance folks had to hire an excavator outside or excavation company outside to come in and move snowbanks back, so they had places to put it. So when a front end loader or a loader became available, we asked maintenance for that. So I provided a list of things that we've gotten for other entities throughout the county. It hasn't been strictly, sorry about that, hasn't been strictly for the sheriff's office. We've tried to look out for everybody and get something that they could use that wouldn't hurt their budget and could help them do their jobs better. So that's why I submitted that, because maybe you weren't aware of all those other things that we've been doing for other entities throughout the county.
Commissioner Gordon, do you have anything?
Well, I think one of the issues of the workshop was how this came about, and it caught us being the commissioners in the position of not having, I guess, written requirements for how vehicles, or in this case, or equipment was obtained through these programs. The concern certainly at the time that this vehicle was acquired by the commissioners anyway was, here we obtained something from the federal government gratis, but to get it into shape, put it into a position where it was going to function for the county, was going to cost us a sum of money. And I think at that time, we then created some requirements in the future, not that it couldn't be done, but it's just a matter of informing the commissioners so that being responsible for funding and disbursements of funds, we would have the opportunity to understand what it's for and how it was to be achieved. In this case, what originally happened is, and if I understand this correctly, is that it appeared that to get the vehicle and get it to start into shape, it was going to cost us in the sum of about $40,000 or a little bit more, which after some discussion we agreed to. And now, and I'm getting a short form here, I'm getting into the position where my understanding is that funding has come from the county, and it has been in the total amount of over $100,000. So what we're using this for is an example of what we as commissioners have got to understand and what the county has got to understand as to how these things occur. I mean, what's the process so that everybody can be supportive, or in some cases, obviously, it would maybe rejected, but be supportive of items that come about this case. I'm not sure where the other commissioners stand, and I don't intend to speak for them. It's their certainly their privilege and their understanding. But my concern is that we've had some disbursement of funds in amounts that generally in other cases, and I don't know that we've ever had this defined before, generally in other cases, has had to come before us. And I guess it will be look as an approval, but mainly for the idea of being informative. And I guess with that, I'll stop. But that's my understanding. And that's what this discussion should bring forth, is where we are with all this and how and what policies we have in standing, and how in the future this may be transacted. And if we don't have something addressed appropriately, that we can make those changes so that it can be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
So maybe I didn't, I know that Commissioner Jameson, I thought he just wanted the military surplus we got. You know, I've reviewed what Manager Gailey sent out, and you know, first of all, I take complete responsibility as sheriff for this quandary that we're in. Captain Goulet kept me apprised throughout this whole event. When he asked for any invoices to be paid, he let me know. He let me know that he had the money set aside, whether it's from JAG grants, Homeland Security grants, drug forfeiture, et cetera. You know, on July 11th, 2019, you approved $40,500. And when I look at the items brought to light by Manager Gailey, you know, the question is, does that meet the criteria for a sealed bid? You know, I can tell you that Captain Goulet reached out to a bunch of companies in Maine. There weren't many. And the best that he could find were 3 within reasonable driving distance, rather than shipping it halfway across the country. And that ended up coming back as Autotronics in Frenchville. The initial estimate was 110, but we didn't have $110,000 put on this. At the time he was holding, and that's what he put in front of you, was a certain amount of drug forfeiture and 1 or 2 Homeland Security grants. So the question is, should that have gone out to seal bid? You know, by policy, it could have, but he did due diligence in trying to find somebody locally. So I think that maybe some clarification there. It's real clear where you folks stand on the acquisition of military surplus. I got that message, and frankly, I saw it as a benefit to the county, and I'm not seeing it as a benefit right now. But again, I'm real clear on where you stand on acquiring military surplus. In July of 2019, we put in a CIP, and additionally, it was for $85,000. That's a big chunk of money. And at the time, let's go back. At the time, July 11th, there was a lot of talk about the fact that it would be in phases. And you know, the notes talk about that this was just one little part to kind of get the vehicle, so that if we had to grab a laptop and just actually go into the vehicle, we had at least some places to sit. And it wasn't going to be at the point that it is now. You know, it's just that we've gotten money through other grants and stuff and tried to be creative and tried to be, you know, as they say, down home Yankee, and trying to get things. I mean, you know, we spent a whole day of our own time just gutting the vehicle to try to save money there. So we knew it was going to be in stages. We said it was going to be in stages. I assumed that people knew it was going to be in stages. You know, going back to the capital improvement, we did put in for it for capital improvement in July. I think Captain Goulet asked for 85 grand. You know, what you ask for and what you actually get is two different things. So in the end, when I came into my budget meeting with Manager Gailey, there were 35,000 set aside, which, you know, was fine for what we needed anyway. It was actually presented to you on September 10th of 19 as part of the proposed budget. On October 3rd, for some reason, the RCC needed some money in the 11th hour, I guess. I don't know. It was unplanned. And so we were asked to give some money back. And, you know, through my command staff, we talked about a bunch of things. We opted to give up Dragon Speak or Dragon. It's a program that allows people to talk and it types for them. But in the end, 5,000 was taken out of the 35,000. So, you know, it was told that we would get 30 grand out of this. So, and then I just found out, I think Captain Goulet knew ahead of time, but I just found out that when the budget was printed in January 2020, it was only 20 grand. So I don't know what happened between October 3rd and being told that we would at least have 30 grand and then the approval for 20 grand. You know, I realize the commissioners have the ability to make decisions and authorize budgets and stuff, but I guess I would like to have known that it was cut and why it was cut as opposed to that. So if we'd have got that 10 grand or even the 15 grand that was approved in September, we wouldn't have this conversation. In fact, there'd be 3 grand on the table. You know, as far as processes and stuff like that, you know, I read through the policies that were, the county policies that were put out there. And if I try to make myself slant that way, maybe I can see some policies that we could have been better at, but I think some clarification, some better communication would have been good. You know, we used IT to purchase IT related stuff. You know, we tried to use our money the best way we could. In March of 2021, Captain Goulet submitted invoices for $50,000. Now I'm not sure if that's 45 plus another 14,000, but they were paid, you know, and then I find out that maybe they should have been paid back then, but nobody was said anything. So, you know, the reality is this, Captain Goulet kept a spreadsheet. He never paid anything or authorized anything that was going to go over what we had, whether it was Homeland Security grants, JAG grants, CIP, things that were in the budget. Because of it taking 3 years, I don't know if I paid storage fees. I mean, I should have charged him for the loss of the use of the vehicle, but, you know, came in more than we expected. The grants, I know that mentions we didn't, you know, there were some grants that we didn't register. When I read that, it would be nice to have something specific because most of the grants that we're dealing with, the Homeland Security, the JAGs, et cetera, they're not big money. It's 10 grand or something like that. And I say big money in the scheme of things. You know, it mentions in there, and quite frankly, I wrote the grant for the MAT person. And it didn't even look like a grant. It was Gordon Smith, who's the director of opioid response, you know, meeting me at a meeting saying, hey, send me a letter. We got some money to help you start the MAT program. And I did just that. I sent a letter and broke out what we needed. And, you know, the fact that if we're going to do MAT, we need some help. We need some money for medications and stuff. And they sent back some formal paperwork to sign that would make it look like a grant, but it wasn't a grant as I call in the traditional manner. So did it get registered? No. You know, and I know that Alex, you know, does the reporting on that all the time. You know, as I sit here, maybe it should be in there, but maybe it should be clearer. And it wasn't anything other than the fact that, you know, get that fixed and move on type thing. So, you know, the accepting of grants and that whole thing, you know, it's real clear for me, a second chance, building bridges, a COPS grant where you're putting an officer and they're paying over 4 years, you know, that has the requirement of periodic meetings, checking in, writing reports to make sure that the money's being used wisely. The other grants that we deal with, it is kind of non-competitive. Here's a grant, provide us with proof that you've used the money and what you've used it for, and the thing is written off probably in one transaction. So I guess my thought is this. Captain Goulet did the best he could that try to get this vehicle up and running with the intent to save the county money and to eventually replace a vehicle that's showing its age. The money was set aside. Obviously, we came up short, and I could say it was the CIP or whatever. During this whole thing, I was kind of on the fence whether or not Raymond should get a donation for their motors on a boat that we haven't used in 2 years. We probably won't use for another 10 years. And it doesn't have our name on it. And they could sell it tomorrow and we're out 15 grand. But this is something that's going to have the county name, could be used by the CCRCC. We've set it up for that. It could be used by anybody if they so needed. And, I felt it was important that we have a backup for a vehicle that's been in service for over 20 years and really shown its wear and is kind of small. As one of my captains said the other day, I think Friday, we were talking about something. He said, if we get an issue call out today and we're standing outside of some place or a dive team call out, somebody falls through the ice or missing person or whatever, it'd be a lot nicer to get into a vehicle where we can all talk and try to make sure that we solve the issue at hand and not be sitting in our cars trying to talk out the passenger side window. So I think the chain of events, there could have been a lot of better communication with my office, the executive office. And that if we were doing this wrong, then had we known it, I would have changed things up. But, now we've got a bunch of policies and all these things, some of which have been fixed, like the acquisition of the vehicle. I mean, that got the message on June 11th and it was firmed up, so I'm not sure that that's even in play here other than the residual aggravation of it all. So that's really the briefing from my perspective. I'll take any other questions.
I think one of the reasons why we're here tonight is because of the amount of money that is still what needs to be paid. Okay. And I want to commend our Don on our spreadsheet. I've never seen a spreadsheet like that. I could actually follow that spreadsheet. And I went through that packet page by page, number by number. And it was a job that was really put together well, is on the spreadsheet. Well, but I think the issue here is that the grants, the forfeiture monies, and with the communication of policies is not being adhered to. And it is my understanding that the invoice, the total, and I'm going to read this, is up $1,000. No, wait a minute. Is $120,459.50. We, the commissioners, we did on, I think it was back in 2019, we did approve $40,500. So the total is $79,959.50, where that was spent over the authorization from the commissioners. Okay. And that's why we're here tonight, is to discuss this, because the sheriff's office still needs $12,000 of $129 to be transferred from the 2021 fund balance to cover this remaining amount. And that's why we're here to have this discussion. And have my thoughts on it. And I was very vocal back in 2019 regarding this whole thing, with the command vehicle, the spending of the money, the so-called free piece of equipment. And if you go back over the notes, it was quite a lengthy of a discussion, okay? But I sided with the rest of the commissioners because I felt that this would be phase one, and maybe it is something that we can use. I don't think I've ever been against us taking free stuff. And I think I stated we're back in 2019 that nothing is free. It's going to come with a price tag, whether it's coming from the county will fund, whether it's coming from, a grant, or whether it's coming from the forfeiture money. It's all the money coming from the county, and it needs to be accountable, and it needs to go through the process from the commissioners. And I think that's why back in 2019, some of those policies were put into effect for future. Is that my understanding with Jim? Is that correct? Is that how we came up with the policies?
Yeah, absolutely. It was June 19th, the discussion that took place, and the commissioners at that instructed staff to develop a policy around the federal surplus, state surplus, whatever type of surplus. Keep in mind, it's a sliding scale, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but there is a certain threshold. The smaller stuff doesn't need approval.
Right.
There goes to a second tier, and that needs the county manager's approval. And then I do remember that anything over a value of $50,000 would need county commissioner's approval. So there is no part of that policy that prohibits any department from receiving federal or state surplus. It just needs to follow the policy in terms of authorization and approval process.
Yeah. So I think that's where we are here, and we can't, we'll vote on it with the monies. We have to wait, until we get into the meeting. But that's why that it was tabled for some more reports, and those came in on the spreadsheets. All our grants have been accounted for. Always on the spreadsheet. The drug forfeiture money has been accounted for. It's on those spreadsheets. But I think at the end of the day, it was the overspending, and that it did not come back to the commissioners at that point. And I think that's where we are. So those are my thoughts. And I see Mr. Cloutier is on. Would you have anything with Jim that you want to add to this?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Oh, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I had some ongoing technical problems in addition to any other issues of the hour, but no, I think you've got that right. Is the thing that got my attention was that we didn't really it became obvious as the presentation was being made last week, the week before, whenever it was, that a lot of the allocations simply had never been made. That they were just they were coming out of various small pots of money, and the presentation was, well, we need this much more to make it whole. So I think A, it needs to be made whole, of course. B, I don't disagree that sometimes you wonder whether you should look a gift horse in the mouth. In this instance, it seems like a readily identifiable good use of funds on kind of the backup level that we were operating before. I thought I heard that it was used in, kind of parades and public events too. I hope that's not a particularly common practice, but anyway, that all is what's swirling around in my head as we talk about it. Certainly, I think, you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar. And so we're at a point where where it probably would not make sense to turn our backs on A, the money we've invested, and B, the value that we received the day we got the contribution. You know, it's according to what we're reading this last couple of weeks, it is a pretty valuable piece of equipment. So I'm glad it's getting updated on one level, but you know, I think we're all aware too that we've got to be sure that we're not you know, building a pyramid when something less than that would work fine for our purposes. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Coward, would you have anything to say? You're muted, Tom.
I'm not tremendously interested in pointing fingers about who should have done what when. I mean, I think this is something we were certainly at some levels informed of. My issue with this goes a lot deeper than that. What the heck are we doing with an MRAP? I mean, I know that ship has sailed a long time ago, but you know, I had to look up what MRAP stands for. That's mine resistant ambush protected. This is a combat vehicle that we have. Now it may be useful. I mean, I can certainly see the usefulness of it, but you know, this is not something that you know, if it needs a tune-up, you don't take it down to Cape Chevrolet and say, here, you know, put some new spark plugs in and some new tires on this thing. I mean, this is a major investment to have one of these things in the stable. And I don't think I was around when this thing was acquired, and I'm not sure that the commissioners ever knew about it until after it was done, the commissioners at the time. But we need to have, you know, for this type of a thing, Sue said it correctly. Free is never free. I mean, it's not. There's a cost in this stuff, and I'm kind of disappointed in everybody up and down the chain here, up to including us, the commissioners, that we got started on this road anyway. I mean, you know, an off the shelf MRAP from from whoever it was from, the Army or whatever, is, you know, it's not going to cost $5,000 to get it suited for anything we want. It's going to be a lot more than that. If this were a critical piece of our infrastructure, critical piece of equipment that we need, we should have gone about it as saying we need this thing for whatever it is. And sure, you know, it would be nice to be able to sit in a warm place and do it, but you could do that a hell of a lot cheaper. You know, go out and buy the top of the line Winnebago and fit it out as what you're doing. And it would be less expensive than what we're doing now. I'm not sure what we do about it, but I'm really unhappy about this long process. And once again, I'm not going to point fingers, because I think there's plenty of you know, I see the incentive for doing this. You've got something, this wonderful piece of equipment that somebody given us for free. And we didn't sit down at the time and say, yeah, but okay, exactly what is this going to take? So anyway, so I'm just sort of generally unhappy with the whole conversation now. I know we could have cut it off earlier. We're engaging in what, you know, it's the sunk cost fallacy. We spend a lot of money on it and it becomes a worse and worse investment. And we keep putting money into it because we don't want to lose the benefit of the money we spent. So I understand the appeal of that. So I mean, that's kind of my rant for the day. And I'm not sure how to address this, other than to say when you know, somebody turns up with something like this again, we need to have an actual review of whether the free gift is something that we can use without breaking the bank.
Thank you.
Just to comment, Sue.
Neil, yep,
A
Neil.
couple comments. So I would agree with Jim Cludier. I think, you know, we have to approve it. It's there. We've invested these funds into it. So I think that's our policy decision that we're facing. But Sheriff, I will say this. I think this, you know, lots of things happened. It was over a 3-year period. You, as all of our other department heads, do a very creative job doing more with less. And you are patching monies from here, there, and everywhere. But the thing you have to be reminded of is that there is a procurement policy, and your department is not immune from it, and you have to follow it. And we put that in place. It needs to be followed in the future, and we expect that it will be followed in the future. And again, I would agree with Tom. that we're not pointing fingers at anyone. This was an expense of taxpayers' money that sort of had a sliding scale that no one knew about it. And hopefully there'll be enough utility out of this vehicle going forward for years that it will be a good investment. But at that point in time, we stumbled along. Everyone did over this 3-year period. Can't afford to let that happen again.
Commissioner Cloutier?
Yeah, thanks. I won't, I'm sorry if I missed a discussion of this already, and I certainly agree with a lot of what Commissioner Coward had to say. My continuing interest in this on any level relates to the belief I have, which may be wrong, but I think I read it in the materials, that this is actually a backup communications center. If our if our communications operation in Wyndham were to crumble for some reason or come offline in a way that would be difficult to restore. I don't need to know about it tonight, but I would certainly want to know, is that an actual use that this can now be put to? And was that the direction that was kind of adopted as this was being refined and rebuilt and improved and more money spent upon? And what is the experience in any other part of the United States about how often it's true that you have what amounts to a catastrophic communications failure that requires a substitute capacity be put into action? So I don't need the answers to those tonight, but I would be glad if someday somebody was able to lay that out for me.
Sheriff?
So it could be a temporary, we're working on a policy now on how do we get inmates if we had to get them out of the jail. What do we do with 300 inmates? And one of the things that's been offered up is, hey, if I have to move them in 5 minutes, I might have to go to the Civic Center. Now, will they stay at the Civic Center or the Cross Insurance? No, but I need to get a massive number of people to somewhere to get them out of the, and then I find places for them to go. With the dispatch center, this isn't, if it went down for 6 months, I'm not recommending that this vehicle would be a 6-month fix. I can tell you when COVID first came in, we brought the other one down, and it wasn't set up like this one to power itself, and the heat was questionable, and you had maybe 2 places, if you really jam folks in there, but it was used as a place to keep some of the dispatchers separated under COVID, because like some places you could send people home and have them work from home. You didn't have that with the dispatch center. So, I definitely, if it went down for 6 months, I'm not recommending or suggesting this is going to be the answer. It could be part of the answer, but if something happened today in this place, this vehicle could be driven out there. You could get by 24, 48 hours, a week, maybe a couple weeks. But at some point, if you had to vacate the place, you got a lot more employees. This will probably house 3 dispatchers working, maybe 4. But that's going to help you out short term. Long term, you got to have another plan. So hopefully
Sheriff,
that answered.
let me ask you this then. In terms of communications redundancy in Cumberland County, do we provide redundancy for the Portland, Westbrook, South Portland, whatever that dispatch center is? Do we provide that redundancy? How does the state handle redundancy? And how do the other dispatch centers handle redundancy, if at all?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that, Commissioner Cloutier. I'm not well versed on the CCRCC, but by use of and communicating, I can answer that. I cannot tell you what the redundancy of support and so forth. I also wanted to answer Commissioner Coward. The MRAP, again, back in 2011, I had asked for a CIP at the completion of the jail actually being paid off. And there was going to be a bunch of money set aside for a $350,000 Bearcat, which is a civilian model vehicle that is protected from guns that we're running up against on a routine basis. And at that time, I was shot down. Well, that's fine, but I've got a group of people that not only include sheriff's office employees, but they're also Wyndham Police Department, Gorham Police Department, Westbrook Police Department, Falmouth Police Department. There's members on there. And, you know, we had a deputy down behind a Crown Vic with a guy that had a gun. And we had to, as I mentioned the other day, we had to find a fire truck to back in and get him out. Well, with this MRAP, you're right, it's overdoing it, but it was free. And we put $20,000 worth of drug forfeiture money into it. And we've had it for several years now. And we haven't put any more money into it. But we've used it a lot to pull up to houses to be able to remedy the situation. You know, my people are worth 20 grand. In fact, I think they're worth 350 grand if we can save a life. We used the vehicle in Falmouth, as I mentioned earlier, to get people out of a neighborhood in the Foreside when there was a standoff and there had been a murder. It was worth all the money that we spent or didn't spend, you know. And I've told people that 350 or 20, we got the same thing. Yeah, is it overkill? It absolutely is. You know, I would say that we also have an MOU with South Portland because they've got one. So if ours needs the roll, they can use their driver. It's one of those things where, like I mentioned last time, we spend a lot of money. We hope we never have to use it. But boy, I'll tell you what, we've been lucky. You know, we've gone to a lot of high risk events and knock on wood, everyone's gone home. And at the end of the day, to spend 20 grand on something that you can virtually drive up to the front door and grab people out of the house for and protect your officers, it's worth the money we spent. So, you know, I get it. This whole thing, we thought we were doing right. And we thought we were saving the county money. And we thought we were getting things that we need. You know, it was mentioned about maybe, you know, whether or not this isn't a parade, this thing. Going back to the command post. We can use it at dive training. We can use it at dive callouts. We definitely use it at ESUs. We've had crime scenes where you've actually had to go there and spend the whole day processing and trying to get search warrants and stuff. This vehicle is going to be set up to do it from the scene instead of sending a deputy to the substation and then sending them in Portland, bless you, and then having the person come out. Everything you can do will be at scene. We built it for that so that we can take care of crime scenes, lost persons, anything. And like I said, the vision is that everyone can use it. As I mentioned, our tactical team is made up of a lot of departments, town departments that we've partnered with. And, you know, in my opinion, these two things should never have to be replaced in a long time, less in my career. But secondly, it's going to help them do their job effectively. And I believe 100% in it. Now, whether or not we can do a better job, you're right. And I think that, you know, in some of the policies, I think it needs to be a little clearer, frankly. You know, this is what I expect, et cetera. Because in that whole process, there were times when I could have been told, hey, you're doing it wrong, I'll fix it, you know. And I'm not throwing blame either, you know. But just realize that this was done on behalf of the county in the best interest. And, you know, I think Captain Goulet has taken a little bit of a gut blow at this. And ultimately, I'm responsible. It's not him. So.
So, okay. It's Alex. You're muted.
Steve's been up a lot longer than me.
Oh, I can't see hands.
Oh, you can't?
No, I can't.
Aha.
I can see Alex's hand. I can't even see Steve at all. Steve is gone.
And Jim Gailey had his hand up too.
Okay, so, okay. Oh, you're back. Okay, so Steve, yeah, so I can't see hands and sometimes I can see you, sometimes I can't. Okay,
Right.
Steve, I'll go Steve, Jim, Alex, and then myself.
it seems to me that we've got a couple of issues going on here. And one is the actual asset that we're talking about and its needs and whether we want it, don't want it, et cetera, and to debate that issue. The issue that for me that I think is very important and I believe is the goal of what we're talking about is that commissioners have the responsibility and the liability for spending money of the county. We're held accountable. And what I hope we understand in this discussion will bring out is that we're all a team. I mean, here's the sheriff who's got our largest department. And as a result, he has things he has to spend. But even if he has to spend them, and I respect that, we have to have the knowledge of that so that we can agree with him and support him. Maybe that debate takes place or whatever, but I'd much rather have it, and I believe he would too, beforehand, rather than in the condition that we're having it right now. But regardless of how it comes out, that is the goal, is that the commissioners have got to know what monies are being dispersed and brought into the county so that they can accept the responsibility and the liability that they have due to their position. But on top of that, we've got to work together so that we can, department heads can remain flexible and be able to function in a manner that serves the public to the best of their ability. So we can go on debating or talking about the item, and I won't object to that. But it's the goal of us all working together and the commissioners being given the information so that they can make the appropriate decision and accept that responsibility.
Okay. Well, Jim Gailey.
I was just going to talk about the dispatch center redundancy. I can take care of that in an email
Okay.
at a later time.
Okay. Oh, it was Alex.
Yeah, I was sort of waiting towards the end. My comment isn't specific to this topic, but just sort of in generally mentioning something that the sheriff touched on earlier. For many, many years, the sheriff, he made a comment about sort of there are grants and then there are grants, where there are the ones like, say, the Second Chance and the federal grants, where the reporting requirements are very, very tight. And we really have to be very centralized about the reporting. And then there were, and certainly this was my experience for a large chunk of my career as well, grants where there was much more of a good faith effort would be okay. Sort of we're all amongst friends kind of a thing. Those days, especially in the course of the past couple of years, are pretty much over. All grants moving forward need to be treated like they're federal grants, because what I am seeing is a tremendous leap forward in terms of compliance testing for all grants, state grants, intercounty grants, from a private entity, you name it. It's all being held to that level. So we definitely need to keep everything passing through. And it's definitely a change from even a couple of years ago. There's this whole new crop of analysts out there is what they're typically called, and they are very good. And that's great. It just means we have to be very, very tight as well. So that was just a comment for us in general.
Okay. Kevin, a couple of things. There were pictures that you sent or that were sent to us of the van. That's going to be what it actually looks like, is on the inside.
Is that the Autotronics proof?
Yes.
I think that was something that's going to look like that, but I don't think that's the picture.
Okay.
I think because that was, keep in mind that vehicle hadn't been gutted at that time. So
Okay.
I think it's a mock-up of what it would look like.
Okay. The other thing, with the old command vehicle, can we get rid of that? Can we sell it, or what's going to happen there?
I don't know. I don't know if it had, what has for use. I mean, obviously it's in use now. You know, we're wrestling around with the fact that we have to mandate fingerprinting and stuff like that. So the talk was, could that be a mobile fingerprinting thing where we go down and fingerprint people that don't get arrested and brought to jail, they get arrested or summoned, we still have to fingerprint them. But, you know, I think there's no decision made on that.
Okay. And the other thing, when we go back to, it's in person meetings and we're actually at the courthouse, is there a possibility that this could come down so that we all could get a look at it?
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, you ought to see what, I guess under normal circumstances, what you're approving. I guess it's
Yeah.
kind of lost on this meeting,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
it's,
right. And, you know, I mean, since we're going by with Zooms, it's kind of, we're tough, and for everybody, you know, to try to get down to see it. I just thought that maybe, you know, with when we go back to the in-person, you know, that it could be brought down and, you know, before the meeting, you know, that we could get the tour or something, so.
absolutely.
Okay. So because of that, we can't take a vote because it's a workshop. It's on the agenda and there will be some motions to approve the remaining our monies for this to go to is auto electronics. So do we have any other discussion on this or are we pretty well clear? And
I would just say thank you, and your message is loud and clear going
Okay.
forward.
Okay, so if I don't see any other ones, we can make a motion to come out of the workshop and to go into a regular meeting. So let me get the next book.
I'll second it. Tom's.
Yeah, I was trying to move it and I keep forgetting to unmute myself, so.
Yeah, Catherine, can you take a roll call, please?
Okay, is this the roll call to start the meeting?
No, this
No.
is the roll call to come out of the workshop and then,
Okay.
go. Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Cloutier,
Yes,
Commissioner Coward,
Yes,
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
and Chair Ratonis.
Yes. Okay, so now we are out of the workshop and we will go immediately into the Cumberland County Commissioners Special Meeting of Monday with January 24th with 2022.
Do we need Travis to connect us to YouTube?
No, I think we are live
We're all, okay,
because we were live on that one.
on that as well. Very good.
Yes,
Just checking.
yes. For those of you who are out there, this meeting can be seen on the YouTube channel at cumberlandcounty.org/live. And if you have any public will comment, that you can submit it to Kennedy at cumberlandcounty.org during the meeting and at the time of public participation. If we have anybody, Travis will tell us that. I would like to call the meeting, you know, to order. Do I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
So move.
Second, do I have a second?
Tom,
Tom Coward, second. Okay. Catherine, can you take a roll call to call the meeting to order?
Sure. Commissioner Cloutier,
yes,
Commissioner Coward,
yes,
Commissioner Gordon,
yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
and Chair Ratonis.
Yes. Okay. Moving on with the next item is the approval of the minutes of January 10th with 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second, okay. Catherine, can you take a roll call?
Commissioner Cloutier,
yes,
Commissioner Coward,
yes,
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Chair Ratonis.
Well, yes, okay. Well, moving on, the informational reports and presentations. with Jim, I don't think that there is any except for with the newsletter that's in with the packet. Would you like to touch on that for the Regional Communications Department?
Nothing more needed to be said.
Okay,
Linda sent the fourth quarter newsletter in for your review.
okay. But did everybody get the opportunity, what to look at it?
Yeah, it was very thorough, I thought.
Yes, it is. She did a very nice job up there. So I will kudos, to the communications department. The next item is comments from the public. Travis, do we have anybody that has made comments?
We do not.
Okay, so,
We have received one last week. I believe
okay,
the commissioners have received the same letter. And it is from 4 surveyors, Walt Dunlap, Camille Alden, Dick Eaton, and Bruce Martinson. So it is, in summary, it's concerning the commissioners' plans that we have had much discussion about, that are in the attic of the courthouse, that we have a number of surveyors that are requesting the county to scan and index those plans so that they can review those online versus needing to go into the registry of deeds. Just so everyone's aware, we continue to have this as an item on our to-do list. We have not opened up the courthouse to invite a lot of public into the courthouse just yet. However, we are in discussions in terms of type of software and how we would go about scanning. One area that we need to really refine is how we will index, what type of information we'll need for indexing. Other than that, that's an update on the commission's plans.
okay. Do you want to put that on a future commissioners of a meeting or like a workshop or something, or you will let us know?
We had it as an item of discussion probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Meeting. Nothing has really changed. We're just in the pandemic and have other priorities at this time.
Okay. So we will wait until you feel that it's time, where to put it on. Okay. Yep. Okay, well, moving on. The consent agenda, consent agenda approvals. I am pulling this off of the consent agenda because I feel with that, well, for that amount of money, with that it needs some discussion. And I'm going to turn this over to you, Jim, and then you can start it off and then you can turn it over to Aaron.
Sure, this item is being brought forward for an awarded bid to Dell Technologies. Aaron has been working through the need to replace a number of servers, and through this process, he's been able to reduce the number of servers overall. This bid came through as we will be using the procurement policy section, taking advantage of another competitive bid that was run through the state of Maine, which is allowed by the procurement policy. And so this is a direct bid for Dell Technologies that has won the competitive bidding process listed in your packets this evening. So to talk about the nuts and bolts of this, I'll pass it on to Aaron to further elaborate on what he's doing here.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, commissioners. Yes, this item is to replace a number of servers, approximately 12 servers that have reached the end of their 5-year expected life. We had a number of them during the pandemic that kind of got shifted, and we needed to wait on replacement while budgets were frozen and whatnot. So we have about 12 servers that need to be replaced. I worked extensively with my Dell reps to analyze our entire environment and to try to come up with a good long-range plan on how to best address the equipment rather than just replace individual servers piecemeal, essentially. This proposal is a hyper-converged server environment. It's a fancy buzzword, but essentially it is the latest and the latest server technology and really the way the industry is moving. Several other government agencies around the state, including I believe the city of Augusta, have moved to this type of technology. So we'll be able to replace our 12 servers with essentially 4 servers. Obviously, they're in a high availability array. They back each other up. So there's lots of redundancy there. And we're also able to reduce the number overall and consolidate the servers into one location. Really, we're taking advantage of previous investments that we've already made in our fiber infrastructure so that the data can still flow speedily between our buildings.
Okay. Do I have any more questions from the commissioners? I don't have any because I don't understand all this stuff, and Aaron knows that very well. So I'm not going to be the one, for the discussion.
I have a non-educated
Okay,
question.
Neil.
Just so the public will understand, could you explain the efficiencies that this will bring to our system? I know the difference between outdated and up-to-date modern technology in terms of the state of the art. But if you could just break that down a little bit, so how it will make your department and our whole technology department more efficient.
Sure. Dell's got lots of color glossy promotional material they'd love to give to anybody that wants to ask. But essentially, what the hyper-converged model, it takes 3 different layers of the networking, the storage, and the data storage, and it combines it all into one, compresses it into one. So really, you have less pieces to manage, so it saves my staff time. There's less components that could fail, and because of the architecture is converged like that, it actually is more efficient and it's faster to operate.
Great. Thank you, Aaron.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion on this?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second? Second by Steve. Do we have any other further discussions? Okay. Seeing none, well, Catherine, can you take a roll call, please?
Sure. And just to clarify, Commissioner, you wanted to pull this off the consent agenda and put it onto the new business?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thank you. Commissioner Cloutier.
Yes.
Commissioner Coward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
and Chair Watonis.
Yes. Okay. Moving on, is opera our business? I'm going to turn that over, to you, Jim, and you can talk about that.
Great, thank you. We're bringing forward an awarded bid to ZM Strategies of Portland, Maine for the Community Health Improvement Plan. As the commission has heard within the last 2 months that Liz was undertaking as kind of the first big step in the public health role here in Cumberland County. This item was competitively bid because we really didn't have an understanding of what the bid prices would come in at. So Liz competitively bid this. It did come under bid threshold to warrant a action by the commissioners. But because of ARPA funds being involved and also to continue to keep the public health work, and especially this CHIP plan moving, we thought it would be beneficial for the commissioners to hear the results of the bid and what the time frame moving forward are. So I'd like to pass it off to Liz to kind of give you a snapshot of how the bid worked out and what she's seeing in the next number of months around this work being done.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. And hopefully today my technology will work and you'll be able to see me and hear me. We put out this bid for a county health improvement plan. And the plan for us is really to figure out what work with people within Cumberland County, all the public health leaders in the Cumberland County, to really assess what is already happening, where are there places that we are really doing well in public health, and where are there some big gaps. And so the county health improvement plan will really help us identify those gaps and then move towards really figuring out what are the strategies we need to be doing to address those gaps. And the plan is really the work that needs to happen to develop that plan. There's quite a bit of community engagement that we would like to have happen. So it's engaging leaders, it's engaging organizations, but ultimately it's also engaging communities and communities who are those who experience sort of the most barriers to health. So to do that, we are, we've put out this bid to have additional capacity to be able to do that, to do it well. So we had, we gave 5 weeks for folks to put in a bid, and we got 2 bids. And one of the bids was, as you can see in the bid scoring sheet, scored fairly low, had a low bid, but a low budget, but also a budget that didn't match the work of that's needed for this plan, nor did it match the plan that they gave. So the bid of ZM Strategies was exceptional, really well laid out plan of how they would be able to support the work of this county health improvement plan and help us meet the time frame to have a more comprehensive understanding of what the whole county can be doing, all the public health entities could be doing around improving health. This chip will really then help me and the county figure out then what is the work that should be housed kind of under Cumberland County versus what is the public health work that should be done and is already being done by other public health entities. So it's really kind of foundational for us to develop this public health work at the county. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has around this process or around the bid.
Do I have any more questions from any commissioners or anything? Steve. Commissioner Gordon.
First off, I'm glad to hear that this has taken place. And it's a question that I don't expect you to answer in the affirmative. But as Jim knows, oh boy, her name just slipped my mind. Faye Lupe had quite a program that she had put on about a family treatment center, I think it was, or something similar to that I think meshes with kind of what you're saying. And I would hope that if you have the opportunity that you would talk to her about that, because it appears to me that it may be something in the future that we're going to want to consider, in that it also starts to alleviate some of the issues that the sheriff's department has with prisoners that they bring in that are afflicted with, mental illness, homelessness, substance abuse, etc. And so to me, it seems that that's the road that if we're ever going to dig ourselves out of this mess that we're in, because the county jail is the residence of last resort, that's going to be one of them. So I would encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to sit down and talk with Faye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Commissioner Gordon. And I'll say that for sure, Faye and I have been in communication and are talking about, I think that's one of the amazing opportunities of this county health improvement plan, is to find those places for collaboration and connection. And Faye and I have definitely been talking about that and talking about a bunch of places where I think there's some alignment around the violence intervention and prevention work that she's been doing, and some of the work around with reentry and substance use disorder treatment. And so I think for sure that I think is actually one of the things I'm most excited about this county health improvement plan, is for those sorts of collaborative and synergistic work to happen. So thank you.
Do I have any other questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Liz, for all your hard work on this. And do I have a motion to approve this ARPA funds?
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
Second. Do we have any other discussion on this? Okay, is seeing none. Catherine, or what, can you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cloutier. All right. We'll circle back. Commissioner Coward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Chair Ratonis.
Yes. Okay. Did you get Commissioner Cloutier, or did he?
Here he comes. Commissioner Cloutier? There he is. You good? Okay.
You got your thumb up. Okay, moving on. The next is with new business, and at this time, Jim, that we have no new business, is that correct? I don't
We
see.
have new business in the sense of unfinished business from last meeting.
Oh, okay, that's, okay, yep. Okay, so the first item is 22-005, approval of the new COVID-19 with vaccination testing face covering policy. Requested to table is indefinitely.
Yes,
Jim?
this item was on the last meeting. At that meeting, we asked the commissioners to table the item because we were just not ready for the commissioners to act, because there were a lot of things in play on the federal level and on the state level. The commissioners tabled the item. As we all know, in the last 2 weeks, the Supreme Court has weighed in on the Biden administration mask mandate, vaccination mandate. And so that is pretty much stalled or dead right now. In addition, the state of Maine has postponed their meeting that was supposed to happen either the 18th or 19th of this month. So there is no action needed at this time around the vaccination policy. So to follow Robert's rules, we would need to table this indefinitely, which would actually make it go away.
Do I have a motion on that to table?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Jim Cloutier, looks like he's seconding.
Oh, okay. Well, Jim,
Unless
are
he
you
has
seconding?
you might have a question.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
So
Do you have a question, Jim, or is that you're seconded?
I'm willing to do both, but I
Okay.
do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If this is indefinitely postponed, does that preclude it from being raised again for 1 year?
I don't believe so. It just allows us to kind of stop the cycle of bouncing it between agenda to agenda. Do you see otherwise?
I always thought if it was on the table, it had to stay on the table until it was taken off the table. And in every other setting I've ever been in, if you indefinitely postpone an item, then it is not, unless it's brought up on reconsideration the next at the tabling or the indefinite postponement, then it was finished business for the extent of the then current term of the legislative body. But if there's a ruling from the chair that says that this can be reactivated on majority motion, then that's all I need.
Well,
Nice.
can I make a suggestion? Why don't we just table it? Then you don't have any requirement of indefinitely. It's there until you want it.
My
Fair enough.
answer to that would be an indefinite postponement actually kills it. So that's what you're doing. Which,
So where are we with this? Are we I call
well,
for,
I guess, Sue, if you say that this could be reintroduced as the chair and nobody challenges that ruling, then that's going to be fine.
okay,
We can definitely postpone this and we can
Then
talk
I-
about it anytime we want to later.
Yeah. that I would say it can be re-induced at any time, that if we have to. Okay,
I think Jim Gailey has a comment.
with Jim?
Well, I was just asking Commissioner Cloutier if he feels as though the best route to take is to take this off the table and vote on it that way, would that be a better process than indefinitely tabling it?
No, I mean, if we vote on it now, we're gonna defeat it, which means it'll also be ended. I would assume we're gonna defeat it. I don't know. But there's no reason they can't lay on the table indefinitely. And if the COVID pandemic ever ceases and somebody feels like cleaning up our parliamentary situation, then it can be brought off the table and killed or enacted, whatever. But having it on the table doesn't mean we have to have it on every agenda or we have to worry about it. It's just not prevented from being implemented at some future date. And now the chair has already ruled that indefinite postponement would not result in a preclusion during this current session. So I think we can kill it. And if we want to revive it in March or next week or October, the chair has already ruled that we're able to do that.
Okay, now that was clear. As I call, Catherine, you want to do a roll call?
Policy according to Jim Cloutier.
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right.
As ratified by the chair, so
Right,
I'm
yeah,
happy
right.
with that, so.
Okay, yeah, okay. Catherine, can you call with the roll call?
Commissioner Cloutier,
Yes.
Commissioner Coward,
Yes,
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes,
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes,
and Chair Watonis.
Yes, okay. Moving on to next item, 22-008, amending an order with 19-039, amending the bid awarded to is Autotronics LLC. I have two motions on this. The first motion will be is authorize the expenditure of $12,129 from the 2021 Sheriff's Law Enforcement Account Fund Balance for the Sheriff's Office Command in our vehicle. Do I have a second?
second.
I'll
Okay,
second it. Yeah.
is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Catherine, can you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cloutier,
Yes,
Commissioner Coward,
yes,
Commissioner Gordon,
yes,
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes,
Chair Watonis.
Yes. Okay. Motion number 2, to amend the bid awarded for Autotronics of Frenchville, Maine. Original motion with 19-039 in the amount of $120,459.50, of which $79,959.50 of additional funds will be funded through the various years of JAG grants, is Homeland Security funds, is asset forfeiture funds, 2020 non-debt capital, and the 2021 law enforcement fund balance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion on this? Saying none. Well, Catherine, can you do a roll call, please?
did Attorney Cloutier, did Ms. Jim have any discussion?
Would Jim, Jim,
I'm just,
whoops, you muted Jim.
you're mute there.
keep hitting the wrong button, sorry. I just, at some point, maybe Alex could enlighten me, is there actually a fund balance that applies to these budgets, or is that at this point county funds? It really doesn't need to hold up this vote, but it seems like that might not be a separate account. Just
It
a
was
question.
Alex.
Well, sure, the asset forfeiture account has its own separate fund balance, and this would not drain it completely. There would be a small amount left. Obviously, the overall county has its own general fund balance. The individual grants are not so much fund balance based. Those are much more award based. So it's sort of a mix. Does that answer the question, I think?
Close enough for me, thanks.
I think the commissioner was asking about the 2021 fund balance. And we're doing that type of language based on the fact that we haven't closed 2021 just yet.
Oh, okay.
Those budgets are still alive and active.
Very much so. We're still processing invoices and still tidying up 2021 and will be for a while. Yeah.
So you don't have any trouble understanding how this money is going to be spent, though, I'm assuming.
No, I'm good.
I'm fine, thank you.
Do we have any other discussion on this? Seeing none, well, Catherine, would you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cloutier,
Yes,
Commissioner Coward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
and Chair Watonis.
Yes. Okay. The next item is comments from the county manager. Jim?
Really, the only comment that I have is just a greater clarification of what I just answered Mr. Cloutier, and that was looking back at 2021 funds. If an expense took place in 2021, we can pay for it out of 2021 fund balance. If an expense is now showing up as a 2022, we can't look back for 2021. So the invoices received for the command vehicle were all 2021 invoices back in the 1st of December. So just wanted to clarify that. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Comments from the executive staff. Do you have anything with Travis?
Nothing tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay. Catherine, do you have anything? No. Sheriff Kevin, do you have any comments or anything?
I thought I'd bring you up to speed on jail COVID.
Oh, that would
staffing.
be good. That would be very good.
Yeah, so just so you know, on the 14th of December, we shut down partially an intake to give the staff a little bit of a break going through the holidays because they've worked unbelievable hours, and I wanted to make sure they had a piece of the holiday off. So we were going to start back the 1st of January, and then Omicron came along and has been making its way through the jail. We've been up as far as 7 jail employees out with COVID and about 7 close contacts. And I think that was probably the worst we were at. But fortunately, I haven't gotten any emails on employees. So I think we're looking pretty good on that for right now. I was informed today that we're up to 23 inmates. None are really sick, thankfully. But it's been a steady stream. You know, we get people drop off the list and we get people come onto the list. We're still shut down on intake for the time being. I'm hoping to open up. As you can imagine, it's creating some consternation for some of the police departments that have people that a warning is not something that will be a deterrent. Summons won't be a deterrent. And I would suggest that for some people, even going to jail for the weekend isn't a deterrent. So the staff is going to be working tomorrow to see what we can do about those individuals. And there have been some police departments that have tried to do that and that have called and said, you know, any way you can take these folks. So we're trying to figure that out. The other thing is about every 3rd inmate that is coming in, keep in mind their serious crimes or crimes against people are coming in positive with COVID. So that's complicating things as well. Our medical staff last week, we had 2 go down and they're down about 7 people in the medical. And some two really key people were down with COVID last week. So we're still holding our own and moving people around as best we can to try to segregate people so that we can keep COVID in one part of the jail. Some of the people in the kitchen, again, were the targets. So we had to move them out of the kitchen and move people in. And so I think every day, you know, Captain Goulet is in constant contact with CDC, Amy at HR, just trying to navigate a way through this this mess. And you know, hopefully there'll be a downtrend here. We're not seeing it right now. So that's predominantly what we have. I'll take any questions.
Steve?
Yeah, Sheriff, is the state prison taking sentence prisoners yet?
They did take some, thankfully, because I had one female that was going to have some pretty serious surgery. I think it was the beginning of last week, and they finally got her out on Friday, but I was to the point where we could not sit on her in the hospital due to staffing. And she was due to be released in May anyway. It was their inmate. And, we talked about releasing her rather than, paying the bill and trying to sit on her. But they did take her. They've taken about 12 people. I think Captain Glee, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we still maybe have 8 or 9 DOC inmates. I wrote a letter the other day to DHHS because we've got a list of about 5 people that are really should have mental health services. And I asked for the worst one, if we could get her moved, understanding that we're all worried about COVID. And we don't want to spread COVID around, but at some point, it becomes inhumane to keep her in a jail when she actually should be in a hospital. So we're trying to navigate that, Commissioner. Understanding that there's a fine line between public safety and public health, and trying to make sure that we get people moved. We've often said, and I know Captain Goulet has come up with a plan that, we'll, if the DOC will allow us, we'll quarantine these folks, we'll test them, no, there's still no guarantees. We could test them before they leave. And that just means at that point in time, it's 90+% chance that they're not COVID positive at that time, but things can happen. So it's really, every day is just trying to figure out how you get through the next day, quite frankly, under this COVID.
Kevin, can you touch a little bit on patrol? With how are you doing out there as far as for COVID and outs and?
Yeah, I mean, again, people are getting it. Thankfully, they're not out for a long period of time, but they're in and out. We're at about 8 vacancies right now. I'm meeting with the town of Standish tomorrow night because they're kind of kicking the tires on an 8th deputy. And I'm going to discourage it because I just don't think we can't fill it. I mean, we're still trying to fill the Harrison one that was passed in July. I mentioned to Commissioner Gordon, Pownell and North Yarmouth are kind of looking at potentially doing one. And again, I'm not sure that I can guarantee we'd be able to hire in a year or year and a half. It'd be maybe 2 years out. So, patrol's holding its own. I mean, we're getting some good candidates, but I think we're at a point now where we're going to get some people that are not certified. So hiring them is really going to say that they're going to be ineffective for the next year. That's when they start the academy, and the academy's already started. So we're not looking to maybe another academy until August-ish.
Yeah.
So hiring certified people, we're trying to, because that gives us an instant gratification, but the pool is pretty shallow, and other agencies are having the same thing. And quite frankly, we're robbing from some police departments. We have, and they've lost, and it's just a dog chasing his tail.
Do you have a lot of people out on patrol with COVID? I know of some, but.
Yeah, I think there might be 3. And again, that's a moving target, much like the inmates and much like the people in the jail, because, once they get diagnosed or whatever, it's 10 or 14 days or sometimes less, depending on their circumstance, whether or not they actually had it, whether they were close contact. So people are going on the list and coming off the list. I cannot tell you exactly what it is right now, but I'm thinking about 3.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
The only other thing I'll throw out is mental illness. It's amazing. It's not amazing. It's tragic, I should say. When I look at the pass downs, some of the cases the patrol people are responding to, some 2, 3, 4 times a night, different places throughout the county. I understand that there is going to be a crisis center opening up in February. I toured the place in November, and it will be a 24-hour roughly crisis center in Portland. It's a pilot project that may help us out. But I had a meeting today, with Birchton Hospital, because they're getting a lot of people with mental illness coming in and then creating issues. And, Birchton's running up there, but they need a backup as far as going up there. So we told them we try to help, but we have our own staffing issues and some of the other things. So the mental illness is really, it's unfortunately, this COVID thing has kind of blown it up, and the staff are really doing a good job of trying to resolve things in areas that they're not experts in, but they're doing a good job to do it. So that's it.
With Dawn Brewer, do you have anything, or? You're muted. There you go. Do you have
Yeah,
any-
I would just like to say that Cumberland County is certainly hiring. I do not have an accurate updated number of vacancies, but the last we checked, we were in the low to mid 80s of number of vacancies countywide. The biggest need is for corrections officers at the Cumberland County Jail. And Sheriff Joyce, last I reported, we were around 65. I think that might be a little bit lower now, but I don't have the accurate count. But certainly, we have a need for corrections officers, public safety dispatchers up at the CCRCC, where we're down 8 positions currently. And you just heard the sheriff talk about, we do have some vacant patrol deputies and some other positions around the county in the various departments. Just a real quick update. The county's newly hired recruiter, Mary Payson, has started with us. She's got a little over a month under her belt, month and a half. And she has been spending her time really evaluating our current recruitment and hiring procedures. Where are we advertising and posting, our marketing plan, our hiring process, application process, and taking a look at everything to see what's working and what we need to do differently. In her words, we really need to be agile and prevent any unnecessary delays in bringing people on board in this tight labor market. She has been working with a corrections officer through a special memorandum of understanding with the union, the NCEU, Tom Witham. Tom Witham has been working with Mary 2 days a week. He's a corrections officer, and to me, a great ambassador representing correction officers. So the two of them are teaming up to build a foundation, as I would call it, a solid foundation so that we can rebuild to put ourselves in the best possible position to recruit and be competitive in this market. Mary and Tom provided County Manager Gailey with a briefing, an update last week on their work to date in their first few weeks. So I'm very optimistic. Mary has a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Tom has a tremendous desire to try to bring corrections officers on board. And I think the two of them are going to work very well. And they will be hitting the ground running shortly. Mary has met a lot of staff. And I think you'll be encouraged as to the results that we'll see as best as possible in this tight labor market, because everybody's in the same boat. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Commissioner, one more thing I
Yes.
forgot, sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
So we had a discussion 6 months ago about the alert test. And I know that Commissioner Gordon, through his affiliation or president, sent a letter as well as I did. So I was informed last Friday that they're doing away with the alert. Well, they're suspending the alert test for corrections employees for a year based on the fact that we need so many people. But also they're still going to give the test. They're just not going to require a pass fail. In other words, you take the test, but you don't have to pass to be hired. And what they're going to try to do is use those numbers to study to see the effectiveness of the alert test. And anyway, so that was a bit of good news in that, we'll still have to have them take an alert test, but we can still hire them. and they'll measure it because everything is paper up there. And this was from the chair of the committee. And they just want to crunch the numbers to see if it's even effective at all. So that's it. Sorry.
Captain Oguleu, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Just to add that Liz, myself, and Amy met last week, and we put together a booster vaccine clinic for all the jail and law enforcement employees. That's going to be hosted on February 1 over at the jail in conjunction with Northern Lights medical staff who will actually be doing that. So we'll see how many people participate in that. As you know, with the new rules that come out by the CDC a couple of weeks ago that is specific to law enforcement and correctional staff with the booster shot, it can get them back to work as quick as 5 days after either an exposure, actually having COVID, and in the cases of close contact, as long as they are asymptomatic, they can continue to work with a booster. So we're trying to get caught up on that because it does have a benefit, obviously, for our manpower to keep that in place. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I don't see any other executive staff. Moving on to commissioners. Commissioner Coward.
I have nothing for this evening other than to wish everybody a happy new year and looking forward to the rest of the, looking forward to the maybe the weather heating up and the pandemic cooling down, and looking forward to spring now.
Okay. Commissioner Jameson.
I have no additional comments at this time, so thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, the one thing I'll make mention of, and again, it gets back to the jail, but that's where we're really concentrating. Thanks to the Maine Sheriff's Association and Maine County Commissioners Association, and I give the credit to the sheriffs because they're the ones that have initiated it, there's a jail funding bill that's coming together, and we put quite a group together. We've got those two organizations. We've got MMA that is working with us, and the commissioner of DOC is actually on board too. So with all those together, we should be able to get that bill through, which will be a good boon to us. In it are a number of items that the sheriffs have come up with. Specifically naming things such as homelessness, such as mental illness, such as substance abuse, and trying to have the state assist with those costs. So if this thing ends up flying, it will be a boon to us and back through to the citizenry, in that it should lower our or it should prevent us from raising our costs as much as is going to happen. And God help us with this inflation that's coming. You see it in gasoline and everything, and of course the county is based on travel. Thank you.
Oops. Okay. Yep. Before I go into Commissioner Clutie, I forgot you, Alex. Do you have?
I wasn't going to say anything. Just a few comments. W-2s went out last week. Hopefully everyone has seen the email on that. Again, they do not go out via paper, they go out via email. For those who might have some reason to get it, 1099s come out next, followed by the 1095Cs, which are the health insurance proof that is a requirement of the Affordable Care Act. The other item is we did have a ratings call with Standard & Poor's. We'll find out how that went next week, but all indications are that went quite well. So we'll continue on with the rating and the tax anticipation note in the next month or two. That's all I got.
Okay. Commissioner Cludia.
Yes, just a couple of things. First, Sorry about the technical issues, and they seem like they're going to persist a little bit, but I'll try to figure out how to fix it. Second thing is, though, in this morning's e-paper for the Portland Press Herald, it doesn't actually publish a hard copy on Mondays. The top of the page, first page, top of the fold story was about homelessness in Cumberland County, and particularly demands right in the core city of Portland homeless program, which have now doubled, spilled over to South Portland and Freeport, and is now out of capacity with, I think it was 1,150 estimated homeless people needing to be housed. So that's about twice what people are used to worrying about. So I suspect it'll be a topic for us to have to grapple with on some level here as we go along this year. But that's it. Happy New Year.
Okay. And myself, with the only thing I had is the meeting for February 14th. I think we talked about moving it to February the 15th because the 14th is our Valentine's Day. Is everybody all right with moving it to the 15th?
Of course, that gets rid of my best excuse.
Oh, well, it's up to you guys. I mean, it's
Fine with me.
I
It's
don't,
fine with me.
what to go to the 15th or stay? at the-
15th. No,
Okay, the
15th is-
15th, okay, yep. So we will go for the commissioners. We're meeting on February the 15th. So,
Okay.
seeing with no other, can we make a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Okay. Travis, can you shut off the live feed?